In this lecture, we are going to refactor our plugin. So far, our plugin registers a single block. It has not been designed for creating multiple blocks. That's not what we want. Our plugin should be able to scale an infinite number of blocks. Luckily, the scripts package can handle creating files for multiple blocks. To get the most out of this behavior, we should refactor our project. First, let's create a directory dedicated to storing blocks. Inside the source folder, create a folder called blocks. Next, we should create a folder for each block. For example, let's create a folder called fancy header for the fancy header block. Afterward, let's move the block.json, index.js, and main.css files into this newly created folder. Don't worry, the scripts package will be able to find our files. It's been designed to search for block files in nested directories. If you have the scripts package running, you may need to restart the program. I'm going to quickly do so. After running the command, let's check out the build directory. As you can see, the scripts package adjusted to our structure changes. Perfect. It was able to generate the appropriate files. There's one thing worth noting. Back in the fancy header folder, open the block.json file. The scripts package relies on this file to find the other files. It'll search for the editor script, view script, or script properties. The values of these properties should point to a file relative to the current directory. For example, if we changed the file name to main.js without creating a file called main.js, the scripts package would not register the other files. Let's try restarting the npm run start command. As you can see, an error gets thrown by the package. It states that it couldn't find a file called main.js. If it cannot find a file, it'll skip the block, which isn't what we want. Let's undo the change. Next, let's restart the command again. Always make sure the file name matches a file from within the same directory. We're not finished yet. Keep in mind, we must register a block with PHP. Let's open the registerblocks.php file. At the moment, we're registering a single block. However, it would be annoying to repeatedly call this function. I think it would be a good idea to create an array of blocks that should be registered. At the top of the function, create an array called blocks. Next, we will create another array. We've created something called a multi-dimensional array. It's perfectly valid to insert an array from within an array. The inner arrays will represent each block in our plugin. Inside the inner array, create an item called name with a value of fancy header. So far, we've learned that PHP arrays are zero-based indexed. The first item in the array is assigned an index of 0. The second item has an index of 1, so on and so forth. However, we are allowed to create named indexes. Instead of referencing items by their index, we can use a name. The format for adding a value with a name is to add the name as a string. Next, we can add a fat arrow to assign a value to this index. In this example, we are going to set the name index to the name of the folder that contains the block.json file. After creating this array, let's try looping through the array. PHP has various solutions for looping through an array. Thus far, we've explored the while loop. There's another keyword for looping through items in an array called for-each. Let's give it a try. After the variable, add the for-each keyword with a pair of parentheses and curly brackets. Inside the parentheses, we can add a special type of expression. Type in the following: blocks as block. The for-each loop accepts an array. In this example, we are providing the blocks array. It'll begin looping through the array. Each item in the array will be assigned a variable. We can assign a variable by adding the as keyword followed by the name of the variable. Therefore, the block variable will represent each item in the array. In this case, each item is another array. The next step is to register our block. Let's move the register block type function to inside the loop. Next, we can modify the value passed into the register block type function. By refactoring the source directory, the build directory will reflect those changes. The block.json file will not be available from the build directory. We must pass on the new path. The new path is the following: up plugin directory dot build slash blocks slash dot block name. We are referencing the value from the inner array by its name. The syntax for accessing a value through its name is to use a string inside the square brackets. Another thing worth mentioning is the lack of a block.json file. We are not appending the file name. Instead, we're providing a directory. By default, WordPress will search for a block.json file from within the given directory. With those changes in place, let's try testing our plugin. In the browser, refresh the experimental page. As you can see, our block still works. That's great. We've successfully refactored our project to allow for multiple blocks. Firstly, we have a directory dedicated to block files. Lastly, our function can register additional blocks. All we have to do is update our array. That wraps up this section. In the next section, we are going to start developing additional blocks. I'll see you there.